Welcome back. Today I'm absolutely glad to invite our new guest. He's an AI enthusiast, AI hobbyist, a computer science student, and recently he has written a research paper on AI. So with no more introductions, let me invite Mr. Alosh Denny to the show.
Thank you very much.
So, how did he get into AI? What makes it interesting?
So AI is a very broad term.
Yes.
And people are amazed by how AI works. But very few people really want to get into the core of how it really works.
Yes.
And I was actually fascinated by it during a hackathon which happened here at tinkerspace.
Okay.
And ChatGPT had just recently come out. And while everyone was working on the projects, I was fascinated by how ChatGPT worked.
Okay.
So I just watched a few YouTube videos, got into the theory of it, and there started my adventure of programming AI.
Yeah. So how's your journey right now?
Right now, I am building large language models, vision models, and I delve into almost every aspect of AI, be it language model, vision model, audio model. So I put my feet into almost every single part.
You know, as I have mentioned before, I saw just the LinkedIn post you posted earlier. So you have published a paper on AI, right? So
Yes.
could you just give the details of it?
Yeah, sure. So my paper actually dived into a more technical AI model, AI framework that could generate ASMR content. And ASMR stands for Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response, which is a type of content that stimulates particular set of people. And my project was aimed at people who suffered from ADHD or who had trouble focusing. And ASMR is actually one of the widely known techniques to bring back focus. The main issue with ASMR content is that it's limited, and there are many artists out there on YouTube or Spotify who generate different genres of content. But if you look at one person's point of view, they all have different genres. So my question here was, how could you generate content, customized content to users? Could they type in a prompt and generate an audio from that, specifically ASMR audio? And so there began the project. It turned into a research work. I got it published and presented it at a conference.
Yeah. You know, as far as I'm concerned, it's more regarding the health sector, right?
Yeah.
So what was the spark to get into that?
So I myself, I was diagnosed with ADHD at age 19. And from there, therapy is mostly done using some drugs such as Strattera or Adderall.
Okay.
Now, this might work for a particular period of time, say 3 or 4 years, but there are withdrawal symptoms. Now, this drug is an invasive technique. Non-invasive techniques like binaural beats or meditation can help bring focus, but not as much as the drugs do. And ASMR content seemed like a much more bright way, non-invasive way to induce focus into people. And that's what sparked my interest in this.
Yeah, that's something, it sounds pretty interesting. And a lot of thinking has gone into that, I believe.
Yeah.
So what are your upcoming projects on that?
Recently, I've gone into the research field of AI, and I have a few research works. So one of them is focusing on a new AI architecture called CAN, Kolmogorov-Arnold Network. It's supposed to be a very good, or let's say better alternative to current AI architecture.
Okay.
And my research is delving into the aggregation of CAN, protein folding, and knot theory. So bringing these three domains together and figuring out a solution where we can use mathematics and AI to figure out how biology works, or how, more specifically, how proteins unfold. And thus we can unlock how the human or organisms function.
Okay, it's more like a molecular thing?
On a molecular level with the help of mathematics and AI.
Okay.
And another work which is into optimizing upscaling algorithms. So if you are into editing or using any software like After Effects, there will be tools that allow you to increase the frame rate or resolution.
Yes.
And NVIDIA uses a tool called DLSS, which is inbuilt into most GPUs that allows you to increase the frame rate without affecting the overall performance. And I'm looking at a similar idea, but with a different framework, like the one I had used for my text to audio paper.
Okay.
So well, it's open. Enthusiasts can join in, and I have a whole Slack group where you can join in and contribute to the work. So I'd like to thank my friend Anish, classmate of mine, who collaborated on this project. So he was the data curator for this research. If he was working in a company, he would probably be getting like a 10 to 12 LPA job. So yeah, thank you for collaborating on this project.
So being a CS student as well as publishing a paper, how do you see yourself in the future?
I can't connect the dots from here to my future, but I have an interest in the biomedical field.
Okay.
And since my first paper was more inclined towards medical and therapy domain, so I'm more interested in applying AI to those fields. And I'd like to see myself probably in the AI pharma sector,
Okay.
and probably in the next 5-6 years. So I'll be directing my work and research and interest toward that domain.
Okay. You know, as you have mentioned that you publish paper. So, as a student, how will I publish a paper? If I'm going for higher studies, it do help us, right? So, how can a person publish a paper? I mean, could you just define the steps?
Sure. Publishing a paper requires a person to question something really well. So most research was based off the foundation of questioning something, like why would something exist, or could something be made better? Could it be improved? Why could it not be done in another way? That is the spark for research. And once you've found that, you can move on to writing the question down. So you write the question down, you've solved 50% of the problem. Then you just need to find an answer for it.
Okay.
The answer is actually everywhere. So if you look into previous research, maybe somebody has already done work in there. So if someone has already done work in that domain, then you've got the next 25% done for you. You just need to focus on the question you need to solve. And that the rest 25% takes a bit of time. Maybe it will take weeks or months. But there is a bit of commitment that you have to put in. And in my case, for me, it was just to build an AI framework in my own creation,
Okay.
Which had to work perfectly well. And getting that part to perfection, that was the hardest part.
Always.
So that sort of commitment and discipline and that ability to question, that's what really sets research off.
You know, could you just also name about the publishers or the things that helped you to publish the paper? I mean, any organizations or something?
Sure. Yeah. So there are many journals online.
Okay.
So the Springer, Elsevier, these are very high impact journals where you can publish your papers. There are conferences as well, and you can apply to these conferences. You can submit the abstract of your paper, wherein you're submitting what is the point of your research. And once accepted, you will be able to present it to an audience of peers. And also, I'd like to point out that there are tools that help you in research now.
Okay.
So since ChatGPT came out, there have been variants of different large language models that help in writing research. Since now research used to take maybe 2 to 3 weeks, but you can do it within 2 or 3 days.
Oh.
And there are AI tools like Denny AI, which helps clear the mental blocks suffered by many writers. And I've been using Denny AI for a while to write my papers.
A bit about the research paper. You know, could you just explain the steps? You know, as I have asked you earlier, how was your experience on writing the paper? I mean, what all resources you used? Yeah, that would be helpful for others.
So, first thing about writing a research paper is always question. Question why you want to write the paper. What is your idea? And no matter how stupid the question is, go ahead. Because stupid questions like this is what leads to great research. Now, the second thing is commitment. So, if you're committed to answering a stupid question, then from there on, you have developed a sort of ability to continue this work.
Yeah.
Like you believe that, yes, this question will have an answer, I will find that solution. No matter how dumb it is, I will get to a point. So, those are the two things I would say. The third thing is there is a format for writing papers. So usually there's an abstract which provides a brief summary of what your paper is, basically your question and your answer. Then there's an introduction which goes into the initial stages of your problem.
Okay.
And just mainly beating around the bush about your domain. And then from there on you can move on to the literature work, which means you will be talking mainly about previous work in this area, whether someone has already done work, whether there have been improvements, and what is your contribution to this, what changes are you making.
Yeah.
That has to be very significant. So you have to be citing or providing an original idea or original contribution for it to be considered research. So your question has to be framed that way.
Okay.
And once you have your literature work complete, you can move on to methodology, which is the backbone of research papers, wherein you detail out how you carried out the process. Have you collected any data? Have you done any studies? Were any people involved? What were the results? What was the scope of your project? And after that, you have the discussion and the conclusion.
Yeah.
So that's where you wind up on your research.
So, you being a CS student, what can you give us the roadmap of how to be a good creative computer engineer?
All right. This is a very widely asked question, actually.
Yeah.
Since AI is a very broad term, artificial intelligence,
Yes.
and the A to Z is a bit complicated, where to start from. Most people see AI these days as ChatGPT or Gemini, but they all had a starting point. So I would suggest getting into machine learning. It's pure mathematics, really, and you're just tasked with predicting some data from previous data, or maybe doing some analysis on data exploration, very menial tasks. From there you can progress on to deep learning, which again delves into a much advanced concept of machine learning. And from deep learning, there are different branches you can choose. You can specialize in computer vision, natural language processing, audio modeling, and so on.
As a student, do you think that to be a good creative engineer, do you think the academics is a bit outdated?
The academics is outdated, yes, but the core fundamentals are quite important. I'd say the syllabus right now needs to include a few more recent and upcoming topics. Like, for example, web development has changed a lot in the past 10 years, but we're still sticking to very basic programming languages. Also, more blockchain and AI have made their way into it. But the universities have been taking an effort to include machine learning or data analysis. I think IITs have started, they have been inducting courses on AI and deep learning. And since they borrow their syllabus from American universities or upcoming universities, their syllabus is always up to date.
Okay. Think like I'm a person who is interested in getting into coding. So, consider a person who do not have much resources. All he has is an internet. So, could you just name some sources where he could learn or get into the computer science?
Getting into computer science, it's a vast domain. You have to know about the basics of programming like C, C++. These are very foundational languages. These can help you to get an idea of how a computer works,
Yes.
How it processes or operates on data. But I can give you more of an insight into if someone wants to get into AI with no resources at all.
Yes.
So YouTube does not have a set playlist for this, but I'd suggest a free course on Coursera by Andrew Ng. So he has this course called Machine Learning Specialization, which is completely free.
Yeah.
You can access it via Coursera. The full playlist has been uploaded on YouTube as well. And it's a very good starter course. It goes into very easy explanations with examples and analogies. So it's quite easy to digest. As a beginner into AI, it was actually quite easy for me. So I hope it will be easier for everyone else.
Nice. Also, something that I missed out in an earlier question is what would be the package? I mean, what would the package of a good creative engineer? I'm using this creative word because it's suited in that. Yeah.
So as an AI engineer, there's a lot of roles you can assume. So you can start off as a data analyst, or you can start as a machine learning engineer, or maybe data exploration engineer, and those are, you can expect around 9 to 10 LPA packages. So these jobs can be found, you can get them in Cisco or companies like Wipro or Infosys. Moving on to higher sector jobs like computer vision architects or audio architects, NLP architects, you can expect around 20 to 25 LPA. Beyond that, when you're going on to becoming an LLM or large language model architect, or maybe say working for a huge AI, multimodal AI, I've looked at Twitter's hiring strategy as well as OpenAI's hiring strategy. So just for interns, they have a package of $150,000 per year, just as an intern. Twitter was recently, they were in a hiring phase and they were paying data curators. That means those are people who just had to collect the data,
Yes.
$300,000 per year.
Okay.
So it's actually a huge gap when you consider India and the US.
Yes. Do you think that India is embracing upcoming AI engineers, or I see this trend of going abroad for higher studies and all, and we do lose talents. So why?
It's because AI is just catching up in India, and India is not at the first position of this rat race. So people always want to go to those countries that are at the top or in the top 3.
Yeah.
And that's why we're having this brain drain of people emigrating to other countries like the US or Europe. India has started to embrace, but it has been late by around 2 to 3 years. Recently, the AI for Bharat community has popped up, and they have the mission to bring about Made in India AI. And I think Navarasa was one of the latest AI Indic models, which can converse in 15 different Indian languages.
Okay.
So that is one advancement we're seeing, and probably next 5 to 6 years we might see a lot more changes. Another example is Devika, which was a made in India alternative to Devin AI.
Devin AI.
So while I think recently Devin AI had some allegations against it, but Devika has not had yet. So I think our developers are doing pretty good.
Okay.
So yeah, I see a bright future. We have a very good population. We have that mindset, commitment. We don't slack around. So probably next 5 years we might see a huge boom in AI.
Could you just name some companies where how the engineer can be comfortable working with?
Sure. So in India, these positions, like positions of an AI engineer, like an architect or a large language model engineer, these are almost non-existent. So mostly you'll see these positions in startups where they are recruiting interns or people who have some experience in data analysis or data collection or data curation or some idea of large language models, and the pay is a bit low. Now, this gap is very huge when you compare it to the US.
Okay.
So in US, these roles are high paying. Like I cited Twitter's case. So they are hiring at around $300,000 a year. Yeah. And companies like NVIDIA, Google, DeepMind, also X, Twitter, they have these positions open. They want to be ahead of the race. And hence this community has its vacancies open now. Probably in the next 2 years, this might all be filled. It will then desaturate into just any other industry. So I'd say get into it as fast as you can.
Along with that, a bit to add up is AI will replace jobs, right? Or AI will take some jobs and it will replace with some other different jobs. So what all new jobs will be created by AI?
Let's take Tesla for example.
Yes.
Tesla is a self-driving car.
Yes.
You have chauffeurs to drive you around. If a Tesla could chauffeur you around, then the job of the chauffeur is done. We don't need a chauffeur.
Yeah.
Let's take self-flying planes.
Yeah.
If a plane could be, the plane's already in autopilot, but if a plane's complete control could be taken over by an AI, pilots would lose their job.
Yes.
But I wouldn't see a complete takeover. Since AI is still in its infancy stage, it's bound to make mistakes. It still has a lot to learn.
Yeah.
And these mistakes can only be corrected with the help of human labor. So it's up to us whether to let AI take our jobs or not.
Yeah, so I think we should use it more like an assistant, right, in our life.
In moderation, we should use it.
I think right now it's actually, after the ChatGPT, there is a big boom of AI products. So And also, NVIDIA CEO has also mentioned that the programming language is much more making the programming language humane. So, what would you advise to a person who is just starting into coding?
So it's always first principles. Why would you want to start coding? If you start coding with the intent of building something of your own with that programming language, then go ahead. But if you're going to start coding completely with some other AI's help, then do not. You can leave it to the AI.
Okay.
Because AI can code, AI can do a multitude of tasks. And if you're learning a programming language, do it for the sake of something that will come out of you, something new.
Something more creative, right?
Something more creative from your side. And always rely or depend on AI just as an assistant.
Okay. Along with that, a thought came to my mind is, as the AI has growing so rapidly, it has taken up quite a lot of jobs. So what are your thoughts on that?
AI has taken a couple of jobs in a sector in different industries, but it would not completely wipe out the human labor of all industries.
Okay.
For example, AI cannot still take over the job of a programmer, because a programmer has that sort of drive to correct errors or actually go and debug a problem if there is an error. An AI is just trained to figure out what's the best solution. It cannot maybe completely figure out the solution, but it provides the best solution. I'll take another industry, for example, the medical or pharma industry. Doctors, even with their 8 or 10 plus years of specialization, cannot be replaced by an AI that has been trained over maybe 6 months' time, because doctors have an expertise over real life data, and they are driven by both conscience and their experience. AI, on the other hand, does not have that inner conscience or wisdom to figure out whether it's factually correct or not.
Yeah, it's either a yes or a no, right?
Either a yes or a no. There's no in between.
Okay.
And it's forced to take that decision. It's pure mathematics. So AI is just used as a screening assistant, not as a diagnostic or prognostic assistant. It's not allowed to give out prescriptions or allowed to give out diagnostics. So that's where AI is standing now. But maybe the future can change in the next 5 to 10 years. Maybe it could replace a couple of more jobs. Cannot say which. It depends on the path that all these new companies are bringing out their AI for. Yeah.
Since most of our viewers are students, could you just name some AI apps or tools that could help the students?
Sure. So I think most of the audience is familiar with ChatGPT, a majority with Gemini, Google's new AI. And there is another unnoticed AI called Claude AI, which I think is one of the best large language assistants out there. I've been using Claude. Claude is actually too good, I would say. You can use these as your writing assistants, and some of them accept pictures as well. So that's for writing. For research, I would recommend Jenny AI or Research Rabbit. They help you to find similar papers, or help you to cite or maybe progress your research writing. And yeah, that's some I would recommend.
Do you think the AI market is oversaturated at the moment?
The AI market is oversaturated with AI tools, not developers.
Okay.
It's a niche community of developers, but a saturated community of tools out there. And the people mostly already previously developed AI have been modified in a way to create the new tools that we see out there on GitHub or maybe on YouTube. Recently, Devin AI came out.
Yes.
So Devin AI is just an aggregator of other AI models such as Llama, Mistral, or ChatGPT. So it just brings this AI together, gets them to function as one unit, and it has a very good simple GUI interface for people to talk to in human language, any language, fix their code, and so on. So like I said, most AI tools have been derived by previous AI tools, and that's what's oversaturating the market right now.
Do you think that the AI will be much more humane, like in the future? I mean, like more understanding the emotions and all?
Yes, AI can understand sentiment from your voice, from the way you text, and probably in the future it will be able to express these emotions with the same clarity as humans do. But that is a completely new way of looking at AI. AI is artificial intelligence. It's purely guided by decisions. But when belief takes over decision, when intuition takes over decision, it becomes artificial wisdom.
Okay.
That if the AI can be forced to act upon its decisions based purely on belief, then it becomes something closer to a human. And thus it will be able to embrace the concept maybe of emotions or expression, try and empathize or sympathize with other living beings. So I see that AI can evolve a lot in the future.
That's a new term that I haven't been met with that new term. Artificial wisdom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually quite a new concept. Just it has been theorized in the maybe past 7 years. That's it. But no new research has been going on in this area because now everyone's really focused on getting AI to be more productive.
Yes.
In every domain.
A small doubt that came to my mind is, when will the AI get saturated? I mean, what is where will be the saturation point at the limit of AI?
The limit of AI would be when AI becomes as intellectual as us human beings, when it can conquer the same level of wisdom and intellect as us human beings. At that point, we might not be able to differentiate between a real human and an AI. And if AI can do this, then it has reached a point where it can surpass all human intellect.
Yeah.
It can become a higher being, and it will have much more control than us human beings. This is similar to comparing a human and a chimpanzee.
Yeah, okay.
If chimpanzees became more smart, they could easily take out the human population.
Yes.
If you've seen the movie Planet of the Apes, so just one ape with too much manpower and intellect could bring about destruction to the entire human race. So yeah, that's what could happen if AI could become very, very smart.
So it's definitely dangerous.
It's definitely dangerous. Do not tame AI. Do not test it to its limits. But people are still doing it. A more recent topic that has popped up in the AI boom is ethical and legal
use of that.
Yeah. So AI can be misused for a lot of purposes, and thus there have been many laws and bills that have been passed to keep AI in place. The European Union passed a bill that states that every AI has to pass through a set of benchmarks to understand whether the AI would deviate in a certain set of conditions, whether it has any consequences. Similarly, the US government has also passed a few legislations and bills in the same scenario, and thus AI has to be checked at every stage to make sure that one, it does not stereotype or bias towards a particular type.
Okay.
For example, Gemini recently was alleged against having generating images of black people.
Okay.
For a different prompt actually.
Okay.
So there was a bias and it became a huge thing. And then recently GPT-4o, which is one of the latest models of OpenAI, there was an allegation against it by Scarlett Johansson that her voice was used
for training that. Okay.
Yeah. So beating these allegations are quite hard, and it requires a lot of understanding. So you have to be very careful about AI you're building. What's the objective? Stick to that objective and make sure it's not misused anyway.
Yeah, we have to also think about that while getting into. As I just had a talk with you earlier before this podcast. You talked about tinkerspace, right? So what was your thing on that?
So actually, tinkerspace was a starting point in my journey into AI.
Okay.
So about 1.5 years back, 2022 December, there was a hackathon here, and I just wanted to put AI into my project. I did not know how it worked. I had no idea of how, what programming language to use. And usually the go-to language is Python. So I just came up with an idea to, build a small computer vision model that could identify diseases in plants. Now that's a very common project. You could just find it on YouTube and copy paste the code. It ran beautifully. It worked well. But there was a question inside me, like I just copy pasted the code. I did not know how it worked.
Okay.
And how does it actually work? There's that question that spark inside you. And that's where I dived into the core concepts, starting all the way from machine learning, deep learning, and then ChatGPT came out. Then I went to question how ChatGPT worked,
okay.
and that's how I got into large language modeling. And from there are many other branches. There is large audio models, large vision models. So these are actually very interesting topics, but the core concepts are the same if you can grasp it well.
Do you think, the fundamentals, right? In the future, do you think that the fundamentals will evolve? Do you think so?
Yes, fundamentals have evolved actually. There are quite a few frameworks for AI, and there are different views on these frameworks. So right now, one of the strongest views in AI is a concept called neurons. There are other views as well where people think of AI as not as a structure or an aggregation of neurons, but just empty space where you could just release data. So maybe someday some research could quantify that this empty space model of AI could be much better than a neuronal version of AI. And this is actually always a changing topic. Every day research comes out because AI is still in infancy stage. People are coming up with new iterations, new models. So it's an always changing ocean.
A small thought that came into my mind was, there is a big thing called quantum computing, right? So it's not binary. It's something. It's more like a 3 states, right? I believe.
I'm not entirely sure, but more than 2 states.
Oh yeah. Do you think that would be the next computer? Do you think AI should evolve to the non-binary computers? I mean,
yeah, probably. I'd say yeah. So binary is just a language. At its core, it's just ones and zeros.
Yes.
We are by switching to quantum computing, we're changing the language in which AI works. It can now converse in not ones and zeros, but probably 2s, 3s, and 6s, or if more than that possible.
Yes.
And maybe that might make computation easier. But thinking about the framework of AI, that would depend on how people are coming up with different frameworks. So yes, there is a chance that probably AI could switch to using quantum computing.
Okay. If you're talking to a younger self, what would you tell? I mean, since you have what to say, you have made an angle to your future. I would say you have narrowed down the path, I believe. So if you knew it this way, I mean, if you know this is the way I'm going, what all things you would learn in your previous stages?
If I knew AI was going to blow up in just 2 or 3 years, so we actually don't need a computer science background to learn about AI.
Okay.
I myself, I'm a bio student, so I didn't clear NEET to become a doctor. I would still prefer medical MBBS over engineering, and I would choose AI as my hobby, as my side hustle, and I would try and apply it wherever I could. So that way I could get on my way to getting a surefire job in the medical industry, at the same time focus on AI projects, focus on AI, and that's where I would go. That's my path.
So do you have any other messages that to tell others that would help them? Do you feel like so? Anything else to add up?
Yeah, I would say keep questioning always. So at this age and day, people should be questioning everything. So whether it be life or whether it be about the universe or anything around you, questioning always leads to discovery. That's how people discover new things. And yeah, so once you start questioning about things around you, you get to the bottom of it. You understand how it works, and that opens up your eyes. So yeah, that's what I would say. You keep learning.
Okay.
Can I say a bit more about tinkerspace?
Oh, sure.
I just drifted off from there.
Oh, fine.
So yeah, after that hackathon, I used to spend nights over here. So classes during the day, and then evenings and nights, early mornings over here.
Okay.
And I was just catching up on the concepts of AI. And I made this drastic jump to large language models, which is not safe. I would recommend you follow the roadmap, which I explained earlier.
Okay.
So I jumped directly from machine learning all the way to large language models and trying to understand the core mathematics of it. And here at tinkerspace, they have a very good system with a very good GPU, graphics processing unit, that you can use for training. And I was actually surprised that I was one of the 2-3 people out of thousands of people who come here that actually use the system.
Okay.
So that's the statistic. That's how niche the community is right now. It's probably changed because now there's around 15 to 20 people working in AI. But a couple of like 7-8 months back, this was not the case. So I got the system to use. I could expend it to my own time schedule, and I had trained a lot of large language models, some which worked, some which did not. And actually, the research paper I had worked on, I had trained a text-to-audio model right here using their GPU. So I'd like to give some credit to them as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, we are recording this podcast at the same space.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was really beautiful session with you. You know, you talked about how you wrote the paper, how others can write the paper. You talked about India's future, AI's future. You talked about a lot of things. You know, it was a beautiful session with you again. I'm telling that. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your effort.
Yeah,
We'll
thank
see
you
you
for
again.
having me.
Thank you.
Yeah.